Hello, everybody. How are you? This is John, and I'm hosting iiRcade Facebook Live number. Wow, I forget.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another iiRcade Live. I'm your host, Michael, executive producer here at iiRcade, as always, right? So Zhang's unfortunately actually not making it today, so I did want to include that little clip from a blast from the past for him. So shout out to him. He's feeling under the weather right now too. He's a bit jet lagged coming back from Korea to join us here in Chicago again, which is great. I'm happy to have him back and see him. He's just not here right now. So that's how it goes. The most impromptu holiday special ever coming at you right now from iiRcade, right? So not a lot of time on my plate these days. So unfortunately, I don't have quite the same time I did last year to throw everything together at the same time. But here we are, right? So we'll do a nice little wrap up for you today. Go over 2022, things from last year a little bit too, things to come, things that are currently going on right now too, of course. Plenty of things going on here all the time, always. And I'm always busy because of it, right? So here we are. Let me know if my mic is too loud as well. I am adjusting all these settings right now as we go on the fly. We do it live, people. So here we are. Happy holidays. I see in the chat too. I'm excited. So we're going to have a little bit of time off here. I take a little bit of a break myself for the holidays, a little bit. So I know we'll be back next week, of course. But we're still here for the time being. But yeah, so let's get things started. So first off, right? So somebody, at least Justin, if he's in the chat, saw my Charles Dickens throwback for the past, present, and future, right? So my Ghost of Christmas Past, right? So from Christmas Carol with Charles Dickens, but a lot of people didn't seem to catch on to that. I'm very surprised at you guys. Anyway, let's go into the past first a little bit, right? So that's where I want to start today. So with the throwback from the intro there, let's get into that. So I got some of my banners from last year's special. If those of you tuned in last year, let me see if I can pull them up here. So we'll start with that too, and then we'll recap a little bit, right? So, all right, we'll bring up a first one. I'm going to block myself off for a little bit here. You guys can just see my cozy fireplaces behind me instead, right? So there you go. So a little bit more than last year, right? Because we sort of count last year as the really starting point would be January. However, we really did start in about November last year, right? So we had our first hands-on experience in November of 2020, right? So beginning of November, we hosted a little bit of Game Brew here. Shout out to P-Dubs. I know he was there as well as Prentice, if he's watching the chat too. A few others as well too, which was amazing. We had about, I don't know, it was a very small group too. It was still COVID times, things going on too. We couldn't just bombard our office with people, of course, for safety reasons, things like that. So, but we did have a good time still. That was the first time people ever had their hands on the machines. Was November 5th, 2020, the actual machines that were going out into the retail space, right? So beyond that, right after that too, we had, of course, our December 2nd, 2020 launch. That's me and Prentice right there. He had the first ever iiRcade machine in the wild, which is great, right? So this was us helping Prentice build right there at his house. We did a live stream on all this stuff. You can always catch that on the channel too, if you ever do want to see it. So shout out to Prentice again if he's watching. We had a blast. And it was cool. It was an amazing experience for me and John, especially, right? Having the first actual machine out in the wild too, which is crazy, right? So there we go. And then, of course, just beyond this, the machine started fully shipping to everybody too. This was just the first one that hit, which, of course, the first order was Prentice, and he got it because he was here in Chicago with us, which is awesome. So, and then, of course, shout out to MCAP if he's watching right now too. I think he's in the chat because he got the gold edition too, and he's over in Chicagoland area as well too, which is crazy that our first orders are always here in Chicago. I don't know how that happens to be, but it just is, right? Let's see. Moving forward from that, we had actual 2021, right? We had Chicago Zhang episode 1, of course, released. Shout out Chris Williams is in the chat. I know he is. They're over closer to us now, right? Stayed over, which is awesome. We had our first fan-made film release too. So we counted that last year too as a highlight, which is amazing. And now there's been 3 of them. There might be a 4th. We'll see what's happening, right? Beyond that last year, April 16th, we announced our first sort of accessory, I would call it, right? So tempered glass was released to the public at that point. Then we had June 12th of last year. We actually started the global leaderboard. So that was only started in June of last year. It's crazy how far we've come since then with all the software and things. Always updating software, right? August 12th, of course, Jukebox went into official launch. August 18th, there we go, 2021 last year. So Jukebox, which is still in beta. I'm well aware of this before you bring that up. Jukebox was a feature that was added from the Kickstarter, even though it wasn't quite met. We were just under that goal, I believe, for the Kickstarter, but we decided to have it included anyway last year, so we added that back in August. We also, of course, Canadian shipping rates dropped in August as well, that same year last year, which was awesome. So shout out to our brethren up north, right? So anybody ordering in Canada, we get special pricing from FedEx. We had to negotiate that deal. It was crazy. But yeah, so we're super proud of that last year. We got that. That's why it's only $50 for shipping to Canada, which was amazing. It used to be a lot higher than that previously. Wanted to get that in your hands. Of course, October last year, October 22nd, we added pixel perfect scan line, system level attract mode, right? So the fireplace wouldn't be here without October last year, right? So little over a year, not too long ago, we added this in, right? All these features, including the scan lines and things. And, maybe we'll see updates to scan lines and pixel perfect and things like that sometime coming up next year, right? And then November 4th, the iiRcade store had search features, filters, and carts and things added in. It was like a major feature thing that we needed to add last year too, which was awesome when we finally got that in. And yeah, so that was a short recap of last year. There's, of course, other things that went on behind the scenes, tons of different machines, tons of games, and tons of everything, right? Last year was crazy for our first year. It was nut house. Glad to be here for that. Let's see. Here we go. Yeah, so product launch last year was, of course, our first thing that was like the big deal. Game Store opens up. Of course, we needed the Game Store because how else would you download games? It launched with 36 titles on the Game Store too, which is crazy when it first opened. Now we're just almost at 400 now, which is awesome. And then leaderboards, leaderboards weren't a thing on launch, right? So we had to add those in. Of course, that was always an intended thing that we wanted to add. Jukebox as well, track mode for the system, and so much software, of course, right? So it was a big year last year for us too. Slowed down a little bit this year, but for good reason, right? So last year was getting the things we needed out, and this year is more about repairing, bug fixing, as well as adding core features that we wanted previously that we just didn't quite have time for, that we're still kind of working on as well, and a couple of new features too. We'll go over that in a second, right? So there you go. So it was great. Yeah, we had a big year last year too. We had a big year this year as well too. It may not seem like it because I know first year is crazy for a product no matter what. So there's a lot going on nonstop. Second year doesn't seem like there's as much going on, but trust me, there's just as much going on the second year, if not more. You just might not see it as much because a lot of it goes on behind the scenes, right? So there you go. All right, and we'll get to questions and things, of course, later on here in just a bit. So with that, so this is all software and hardware, right? But we didn't really talk about games yet, right? So highlights of the games, last year's top 10 games, we'll go over that right now. Got a quick little video for you. So here you go. So without further ado, this was the top 10 games of last year, right? So for 2021, we'll recap a little bit here. All right, so that was last year's top 10 games, right? You can see them over here on the right side of me, I guess, left side of your screen, I believe, right? It's hard when I'm mirrored sometimes, right? Anyway, of course, Retromania took the spotlight last year on its release, came out last year, right, for us as well, and other platforms. And of course, we have our Retromania machine, our skin for it, right, our decal. Riptide coming in hot, so it was funny because it was two modern games last year, right? And then we had Space Ace trailing right behind those as well, too. It's not far behind, I can tell you that. Still not far behind in standings nowadays, too, which is cool. Then Burger Time, Dead Cells, Oddmar, Dragon's Lair 2, Mayhem Brawler, Dead Effect 2, and R-Type. It's funny, right? So what, 6 out of the 10? 7 out of 10? 1, 2, 3, 4. 7 out of the 10. Am I going crazy? 6. 6 out of 10 were modern, and then 4 out of them were more retro titles, right? But we do have a modern, technically, remake of Space Ace a little bit and Dragon's Lair 2. Those are tooled in-house that we did. Those are projects that we got our hands on, and we made them into the amazing games that they are now on the system, which is awesome, with leaderboards and everything included. So, yeah, this was the top 10 games of last year, right? So always fun to reminisce a little bit and see where things are and what's still kind of current things maybe coming up, right? So we'll go over that too very soon. Let me see. Shout out. Let me see my chat right now. What else? Yeah, Dead Cells making you upset at times. Yeah, it's a hard game sometimes for sure. It's meant to be that way, right? Dead Cells is a roguelike. It's meant to keep you on your toes and meant to kill you a bunch, kind of, right? Let's see here. What else have I got going on in the chat too? We'll get to more things later too. Keep your questions and things for later on. We'll get to that. Yeah, Laserdisc games are they're a little bit different to do, right? They're a little bit different project, and the way that we do it is always the newer version, right? So we got our hands on more updated versions of the games, just because we think they look better too. That's what Digital Leisure wanted to provide for us as well too, which is awesome. Then we, of course, kind of fit it to our system, optimize it, and everything like that, right? So it runs the way it does. Plus the leaderboards and things, of course, right? Let's see here. I'm not doing questions yet. Not really, at least. Or questions related to the past, at least. That's where we're going on right now, too. I see some other comments for later on. I'll take all this stuff later on, right? So right now we're reminiscing. It's the holiday wrap-up. Easy day for me. Not a lot going on, right? However, let's get to beyond the games, right? So beyond the games, beyond the software, right? So this was kind of my little reminiscing in the past, right? We don't have to dwell on the past for too long. We had a great year last year, too. It was our first year, too. We had a great year this year, second year, right? So, again, a lot of stuff behind the scenes this year, a lot of stuff announced, different things still coming your way, right? So let's move on to our next topic, right? Actually, this is a good stopping point for now. What do you guys think? We'll move on to the next topic. If you guys want, we can change it up a little bit too from lists and things like that. We can do something else at the moment. Could potentially release something. That could also be a thing that I can do today, right? Oh, I'm 22, of course. Cold Cabs came out this year. Prentice, there's my buddy. Happy holidays to everybody. And Prentice, big shout out for, again, what we just reminisced about, the first ever iiRcade in the wild. Prentice was order number 1 and device number 1. So Prentice has been there since the beginning of the company, which is awesome. All right. We'll move on to the next thing. All right. So a little bit of the past. Let's get to the present, right? So let's see here. Let's go with, Let's go with the launches of 2022 for now, right? So let's start with that. So, of course, we had, that's my list. I'll go through the same way that I did the past one to the present, right? I did make some banners this year. I'd saved a little bit of time for myself to do a couple graphics, right? All right, there we go. So we started out this year. Of course, we announced, and launched too, we announced on January 4th at CES the iiRcade Gold Edition, right? So this was brand new to this year. It has not been out that long, right? And it was announced this year as well as released this year, right? So that's a different thing entirely. Beyond that, so this was, January 4th, we announced it at CES too. We had a good time. This is our good booth. People had a great time. We met a lot of different companies, especially there, which is amazing. Right after that, so a little bit forward, I guess, too. Of course, April 1st, 2022, we actually released online. So online only came out this year, barely half a year ago, right? So remember, online's still a new feature. It's still in alpha state. We did intend to speed it up a little bit. However, we got a lot of projects going on right now too, which we'll talk about again more in a little bit here, right? So online gameplay, it only released this year. And now we're actually up to, I think, 60 some titles, 64, 67 titles are officially online to this date. Right now, you can always go to the store and search by online or the online games category. So you can see that. So online gameplay for retro games as well as modern games. But the modern games are done by those companies. So shout out to especially Vector Unit for Riptide GP Renegade, which runs so smooth online, silky smooth. And that's a great game as well. So Global Leaderboards 2.0 and nicknames were also incorporated this year in May, right? So those are still a new feature too. Remember, we're a brand new console. Keep that in mind. So lots of features always popping out, lots of things going on nonstop, right? So Global Leaderboards 2.0 launched this year. That gave some updates, gave some more robust leaderboards. Of course, your nicknames are now always included instead of you having to enter each individual time, which, we're console. That's why we make it this way, right? What else we got going on here too? Let's see. Fast forward a little bit to April 8th of this year, 2022. Our cabinets finally went on pre-order, right? So January and then April, they were on pre-order available to the public, which is awesome. And they actually shipped in the summer, right? So June was the first orders for that, which is awesome. So gold came out, this year, pre-orders launched. And then shortly after that, right in May, I believe, May 6th, we announced our open accessories program, which is still ongoing right now too. And our partnership with Glenn's Retro Show products. So shout out to Glenn if he's watching right now too, and his whole team, which is amazing. GRS over there. And we're still working heavily. Again, we'll get to this a little bit later as well. So we did announce and show off a little bit of our open accessories program. So with that, if you haven't been here, you've been living under the iiRcade rock, right? So our open accessories program, what we're doing is we're not actually tooling the hardware in-house for a couple of different reasons. We're mostly a software company. That's really honestly why. We're letting others bring in their products and work with us in order to incorporate them into our system and our games, right? So that's more about that a little bit later. Again, let's get into Lycon functionality, of course, also announced at Game and Brew this year in September, right? So with also plus 4-player online, right? So 3 and 4-player games online as well too. Working great right now after testing, which is cool. So this, of course, was announced this year too, and we'll talk more on that later. So those were our announcements for this year, right? So here we go, right? So these were the things that were announced this year. Actually, we'll go into launches first, right? So let's go to launches, right? So launches the Gold Edition, of course. I will go back to my comments now. There we go. So Gold Edition, of course, was a big project this year too, coming out for our hardware side of things, and also software too, right? But it is a new board, tons and tons of different things in there too. Of course, the USB ports in the front of the machine, Ethernet ports, all that jazz. There's a lot of other things upgraded in it. On top of that, sound by JBL too, right? So there you go. Online gameplay, of course, was announced a little bit, I think end of December or end of November or December of last year. It was officially announced, but then it was brought out this year early on in March, April time, which is awesome. So online features, which are still getting improved right now too, as well as, of course, adding that 4-player online in the works right now too. It's been tested. It's ready to go. It's waiting on an update right now. It's really what's going on, right? Leaderboards 2.0, which might not concern you all too much, but Leaderboards 2.0 made the leaderboards more robust as a system. It makes things easier for us on the back end, a lot easier for developers as well too, which is awesome. Include those nicknames on the board, so now you're forever branded by your nickname, which is great. That's how we intended it to be. Welcome to the console, welcome to the system. And then, of course, so much software. There's always so much software going on in the background. I can't tell you how much we're doing in the background. It's a lot. It's nonstop. It's ongoing forever too, right? Which is how we get to these announced things, right? So here we go. So, of course, we announced the Open Accessories program. Still ongoing. Caveat right now today too, I'm not going to get your hopes up. We are not launching accessories today. We are not launching light guns today. Okay, we'll get to that. But they are heavily being worked on. Those are our projects in the forefront, as well as some other things too. But Open Accessories was announced this year, back May, June time, and we've been working on it since then too, with our partners at GRS as well as others, right? Which is awesome. Light guns, September as well too. Working on that. Announced with Operation Wolf as well from Tidal. So that's our title, the thing that's always a difficult thing for me to say. So keep in mind, while we may have other Lycon games in the background that we haven't announced yet, the only one officially announced has been Operation Wolf by Taito. So those of you trying to pick up Lycons and stuff right now too, keep that in mind. It's a caveat. I have never overpromised that and I'm never going to. So there you go. But light guns, yeah. So there's one last fix that we're putting in for light guns before it's ready for public release. So get excited. We try to have it out by Thanksgiving. Was the original plan, and before the holidays, honestly, too. Unfortunately, it's not making its way to us before the holidays. We tried our best, as well as accessories, too. We really tried, I promise you. With development, it just, things pop up, bugs arise, issues arise that you can't necessarily always foresee. And we're currently working to squash them right now, too. They're very, very close. I can promise you that. They've been pretty close for a while now. So last few alterations, things like that too, hopefully coming to you in Q1 is now the plan, right? So early Q1 is the plan for accessories as well as Lycons, as well as 4-player online, right? So that's also included in that same software update. We'll probably get this to you in one single software update, all 3 of those features coming at you right at once, right? So that's kind of the intention of it. With that, of course, we've talked about Ninja Baseball Batman has been announced too. I know that's on a lot of people's minds. It's not going to release today either. So not going to get your hopes up on that either. However, it is still being worked on. Yeah, so there's some, it's, just another title that we have to get ready to optimize for our system essentially, right? However, I can bring up something else with that, right? So Ninja Baseball Batman was announced on its own, but then immediately right after that too, we did announce some other iRem titles, right? So iRem brought us a handful of other titles, one of those being Vigilante, which is actually going to drop right about now. So we'll put that on the store in just a minute here. Let me bring up the old video. So those of you who don't know Vigilante, Vigilante is a great iRem game, kind of the spiritual sequel to Kung Fu Master, right? So Kung Fu Master, also an iRem game, released in arcades as well as on the consoles, right? So Vigilante was, I believe, only ever released in the arcades. I could be wrong in that actually, but I believe it was. But a very similar game style, just updated graphics and improved gameplay essentially too. The wiggle off especially is way better, way easier to perform in Vigilante, I can tell you that. So let me give you the old trailer for Vigilante right now. So here you go. Without further ado, Vigilante. All right, so there you go. So there you go. We do have a game today, Vigilante, right? There you go. So originally Vigilante was actually planned to release in January, was when we kind of had it slated. We said it might be earlier, it might not be, right? So tentative release dates when we talked about all the iRem games. So that is the 5th and final of those iRem games coming at you right now. The only one remaining, of course, is Ninja Baseball Batman, which we'll get to, right? However, in the meantime, we did want to release Vigilante to you guys so that you have it. It is on the store available as of now, right? So I did launch it during that. So Vigilante is available right now for $9.99 on the store today. Other things that we've talked about. Yes, Madonna has been taken. Madonna, as well as, we'll get into that. Anyway, if you do have any questions on Vigilante, let me know in the chat. It was on TurboGrafx-X. Thank you, Steps. I knew it. So Vigilante was released on console. I thought so. But this is the arcade version of Vigilante. Of course, just like we have the Kung Fu Master version, arcade version of the game from iRem, which is awesome. Yes, early release. Let's go. Vigilante. It was done. It was ready to go, so I didn't want to hold on to it any longer than I had to. So there you go. I wanted to get that out to you before the holidays today, or for the holidays, I guess, in time for them. More what it is, right? So Vigilante today. With that, also, I guess I should say, Vigilante does have global leaderboards. There's no online because Vigilante is a single-player game. It is solo only. There is no 2-player mode for Vigilante for the arcade version. It is strictly a solo game, right? So there you go. It does have local leaderboards in the game, of course, itself. However, if you want to compete on global leaderboards, they're there. To get onto the global leaderboards for this game, too, there is one thing. For the score to register, you have to actually get on the leaderboards in the game. So the minimum high score in this game, it's a little high. It's going to take you a little bit to get there. So don't expect to show up on the leaderboards right away. It won't post unless you actually score on the in-game leaderboards itself. That's how it saves the data for this game, right? So kind of cool. Some games do this, some games don't. Vigilante is one of those games. So get good. I'll see you on the leaderboards. I'm excited. With that, we can keep going on to the other announcements of 2022, right? We talked about other things too, of course, like the user interface, which was also intended to be this year. However, other projects have kind of sidetracked that a little bit, but also escalated it even faster, which is kind of interesting. So that's kind of cool. But yes, the user interface is coming, just not today, as well as the online global lobbies too that people have asked for. We've talked about that a little bit. That is something that's officially announced that we will be doing coming up very shortly here. So lots of things planned for probably Q1, which is kind of cool. Maybe not necessarily Q1, but probably Q1 for a lot of this stuff, which is really cool. So coming back to you very, very soon. If I could give you a nice little roadmap of next year, I would. Trust me on this one. However, it's not the nature of the beast here at iiRcade. Things change nonstop, right? I've made so many road plans. They always kind of get sidetracked by different things that come up. The arcade space is an interesting space compared to kind of every other space that there is for tech, right? So let's see here. What is the minimum score for Vigilante? I believe, it's either 15,000 or like 115,000. That sounds right to me. It's high, but it's not unbearably high. Like if you play this game a couple rounds, you can easily get on the leaderboards. I shouldn't say I can easily get on the leaderboards, I guess. It's not a Herculean task, I can tell you that. You can get on the leaderboards pretty easily with a little bit of practice in this game. So no worries there. Clauscraft, Pop Red bringing up Clauscraft. Yes, Clauscraft released last Friday, and we didn't have a show, so good to talk about that right now. Thanks for bringing it up. Clauscraft is available for the holidays, of course, too. It's, well, not just for the holidays, it's available all the time. However, it is a very holiday-themed game, clearly, as well as we had Santa Throw last year, too. So if you are looking for fun, easy pick-em-up games for the holidays, there you go. For specifically Christmas on that, right? There's Santa. I can say that for that game. We've also got, of course, Snow Bros and things like that, too. If you're looking for more wintry-themed games, Snow Bros, Arctic, oh my gosh. I always want to say Arctic Champion or Arctic Thunder. It's wrong. I will think of it. ColecoVision game. Arctic. Somebody's going to help me out here. Anyway, it's okay. Yes, Vigilante is live now. Of course, I cannot talk about games that I can't talk about yet from developers that I can't talk about yet. So these were the announcements of 2022. Unfortunately, they didn't make it here in time before the holidays, or really before New Year's, really, at this rate. So that's kind of why we don't put release dates on things. Software is a tricky thing. However, I can tell you that they're all, for the most part, pretty close, especially open accessories and light guns and 4-player online. They're very heavily were intended to be here by now. However, a little bit of pushback, little bit of push on that, I should say. A little bit of a delay, just for different reasons. Development is tricky for various reasons. Working with Bluetooth, very difficult sometimes. Working with the USB, a lot easier, honestly. But beyond that, light gun, a couple of different issues on its own, but one more thing to fix, and light guns are ready. And 4-player online is pretty much ready to go too. It'll be released all at one big update too, which is going to be fun. Yes, Vigilante is $9.99. It's $10 on the store for one of our IRM games. So, all right, getting my drink on right now. All right, with that, we can keep moving on. Quick wrap up today, right? Of course, just like 2021, we talked about software releases, things like that too, right? Let's move on to the games. The games of 2022. What are the top 10 games? So these are, you can sort of see them a little bit on the store, but not really, right? The store lists the top 10 or top 30 really games of all time. This is just specifically games that were the top games that sold the most that were downloaded the most in 2022, right? So without further ado, here's your top 10 games of 2022. There you go. Your top 20 or top 10 games of 2022, right? There you go. So by popular demand, these are in. So you guys decide these, not me. This is all you guys, so which is awesome. It's really funny too, right? You can see that shift between like modern, and then all of a sudden you get like Space Invaders, and it's like, wow, this is drastically different, right? It's fun to have this assortment of games, these differences, and see the data sort of right between last year and this year. It's always fun. I'm such a big data guy. I love analyzing everything. I shouldn't say psychoanalyzing everything, but I love data. Data is great. Data has sort of proof points, which is really cool to watch and see. It does guide us a little bit sometimes. However, don't let that discourage you from thinking that we're only going after certain types of games. We're not. We're going after so many different types of games all the time, right? But it's really cool to see what kind of games you guys like and what kind of games you guys are picking up as we release them throughout the year, right? So Space Invaders took the cake this year. Of course, big announcement. And of course, we released it with the cab too, which is cool. And Infinity Gene's on there too. So Space Invaders is number one, classic Space Invaders. Dodo, taking everybody by surprise this year, right? So it's not surprising that it's number two. However, when it first came out earlier this year, people had no idea what to think about this game, right? They were like, is this garbage? Is this good? Who knows, right? Turns out it's a really good game, right? So it's a classic. If it was released back in 1986 or probably even like 1996 in the arcades, it would have had its own dedicated cab machine. I guarantee it. And it would have done great, in my opinion. So Galacticon, the exact same way, right? These are games that Zhang likes to call neutral, right? New retro games. However, I like to call them just love letters to classic arcades, right? That's really what they are. Dodo, more so like a Popeye Donkey Kong kind of, right? But Galacticon takes elements from a few different games, right? A lot of people like to compare it to, oh my gosh, wow, I'm blanking right now too. I'll think about it. It does have sort of an asteroids vibe in the first or the second part of the level with bonus stages when you kill the asteroids, but other things as well too. Wow, I don't know. Defender, there we go. It's kind of like Defender and asteroids mixed into one a little bit too, but with its own elements as well too, right? You have to collect they're called slaves. You have to collect the other guys in the games, drop them off into their little cages, and then you take off, right? So into the asteroid field. Cool elements in this game too. Very competitive, hyper competitive for the leaderboards too. So if you have not checked out 1, Space Invaders, 2, Dodo, and 3, Galacticon, you can't go wrong. These are, if you bought an arcade machine, I guarantee you're probably going to like at least one of those games, if not all of them, right? Just behind that too, of course, number 4, Space Invaders Infinity Gene, the newer version of Space Invaders. However, very different. Stands on its own kind of two legs. Infinity Gene's kind of its own game, which is great. Also has leaderboards, banging soundtrack. You can use the background effects mixer in that game too if you just want the music, especially on the gold machine. Coming in right behind that, elevator action too. It's elevator action returns. I just couldn't fit returns on this without making it look weird. So elevator action returns, which is great. A lot of people never played that in the arcades and didn't even know that elevator action had a sequel, but it does, and it's banging. You guys liked it a lot, right? So there you go. Bash Bowling, of course. Bash Sports Online Bowling is really the full title there too. Bash coming in hot at number 6 right there with online bowling, be it even without a trackball, right? Which is kind of cool, right? I think that's awesome. It's interesting. Yeah, it's still going, still getting updates and stuff like that game too, which is great. Shout out to Bash if they're watching. Hopefully Bill's watching right now too. I don't know. Hi, Bill. Warrior Blade Rasten Episode 3. Actually, Warrior Blade Rasten Saga Episode 3 is the full title of number 7 right there too. So that's the third in the series for Rasten. In case you didn't know, we do have that on systems called Warrior Blade. It was a dual monitor game, so that was a tricky one for us to bring over to the system. It's an ultra widescreen game, right? Because of that, and it's great to know that you guys liked it. It's a really cool beat 'em up if you've never tried it out too. Warrior Blade Rasten Saga Episode 3. If you've never tried it, number 7 in the list. Number 8. Coming in from last year as well, too. Of course, the second place game of last year, Riptide GP Renegade, right? Now with online play, 8-player online. If you haven't done it yet, go for it. Number 9, our number 1 game of last year, actually, for 2021. Retromania still coming in hot in the top 10 as number 9. And of course, number 10, Moon Patrol, which might have climbed higher had it released earlier in the year. In my mind, no doubt on that one, too. Moon Patrol, the IRAM Classic. There you go. So these are your top 10 games of 2022, which you guys technically decided by vote whether you knew it or not. These are the top downloads so far this year, right? So we'll see. Who knows if there's another spike in the holidays? Maybe we have another list. The all-time top games, you can always see however on the store, or you can go by month if you'd like that too. It shows you the top games of the month as well as the top games of all time if you click on top downloads, right? So there you go. You can always see that as well in case you're ever interested, because I'm always interested. I don't know if you guys are. Anyway, all right, moving on. So top games for this year, right? So cool. Fun to see, fun to reminisce. Look at this year too. Yeah, Galacticon and Donadoto kind of came out of left field this year, especially for our space, which is kind of cool too. The home arcade space. These are games that we like a lot. They're very good arcade style throwbacks, but done in a modern light. They just play so much smoother sometimes than some older games that came out before game development was even really a thing, right? Game design is a new field. It's my degree, but it really is a new degree even too. That only really came out about 10 years ago, and even still, it's new. It's a very small sort of subset of things. Anyway, getting off topic there. Let's see here. Steps saying Retromania plays best on iiRcade because it isn't widescreen and reminds me more of WrestleFest than on the Switch, PC, etc. Yep. So this is, again, was heavily optimized for our system. Shout out to Retrosoft if they're watching. Hopefully Mike's watching. Shout out. Just saying hi if you guys are watching. Retromania team, Retrosoft did a great job on this game. Leaderboards and all too included. And, we got DLC for this game as well. And I believe there's more DLC still planned. So stay tuned on Retromania. It does, closest thing to like a WrestleFest and things like that you're probably going to get for an arcade style machine, right? Which is awesome due to licensing. Let's see here. King Creole, of course, Moon Patrol. Yep. All right. Anything else on these games right now? Can't talk about games that I can't talk about. There you go. As always. More modern retro games, yeah. I mean, data kind of shows that modern retro games, neutral games are kind of a nice sweet spot for us too. But again, don't let that deter you. We're going after so many different types of games all the time, both hyper modern, retro, modern retro, everything, all the time. Yep. Got more coming your way very soon, right? Can you talk about games you can't talk about? I cannot. I can talk about games that I can't talk about that I can talk about. No. Maybe. I don't know. No. Yes, I'm well aware, by the way, chat. I am so well aware of games that you want, that you need, that you not even just want, that apparently you all need. You need these games, right? So yes, of course. We're very well aware of all these titles, but always feel free to put them in the Facebook community group and say like, hey, like this game would be really cool. Yeah. Now we say that stuff all the time too. We know they exist. I don't think there's ever been a game posted that I haven't seen probably a year or two prior, honestly. Which is great, but don't let that deter you either, right? Yes, P-Dubs, I own Mama. So I don't actually drink a lot of coffee, weirdly enough. Most of you don't know this. I do drink kind of a lot of tea-ish, but I don't get a lot of caffeine. So when I get like a full thing of coffee, I don't know why right now. I'm not gonna lie. My heart's going. Doom. Some of you might know I actually worked on Doom Eternal, but that's another time. Let's see here. All right, going through this list. Any games that I'm excited for coming out? Actually, it's getting about that time, actually. We can talk about at least one game that I'm actually really excited about, and it's actually going to be a game that's going to launch right about now. So let's show off this video for you. So we do actually have another game today to release. So Vigilante, bringing that out early, our one of our IREM series games. So that kind of covers our retro side of things, right? But let's cover the modern side a little bit more too, with kind of a throwback, right? We talked about games that are sort of love letters to, classic arcade games, but in a more modern light, a lot crisper, cleaner controls, smoother gameplay, new features, things like that, right? So let's talk about this one right here, if I can ever find a video. All right, there we go. I found it. All right, 3, 2, 1, let's go. There you go. So this is Galaxy Champions TV. So it actually has described itself as sort of a love letter to the game Smash TV. Of course, if you played that in the arcades, very similar game. This is a boss rush game, is what you really call it. Bullet hell kind of boss rush, more so. You do get weapons, upgrades, characters, things like that that you can keep advancing through. In solo mode, you can use joystick and buttons. However, you can do twin stick, right? So in solo mode, it is twin stick as well. So you're going to use left to pilot your person. Your movement is on the left stick. Your directional facing and firing is going to be on the right joystick, right? So it is a twin stick game for solo players. You can also dash with the C button as well too in that, which is awesome. So play through the campaign. Tons and tons of fun too. Different bosses and things, of course, too. I don't want to spoil too much. That's why we didn't want to show too much in the trailers, which is great. This game does also have a 2-player co-op if you're interested in that. So if you do want to play with a friend, family member, things like that, this does have a 2-player co-op. Yeah, so you do have to, of course, we only have 2 joysticks and sets of buttons, right? So you can do twin stick for 2 players. However, with 2 players, you do use the buttons, all 6 buttons and joysticks. So aiming is going to be done with the buttons, so aiming and directional movement, directional movement's on the joystick, and directional firing is going to be on the buttons, right? As well as your dash and power-ups and things like that, right? So that's how that works out. But yeah, this is twin stick. Have fun. We're excited to have like another official twin stick game on the system too. So I'm very excited for this game. I like it. It's $6.99 right now on the store. So pick it up today. It's available right now. So Vigilante and Galaxy Champions TV, both available right now on the store today. So that's my present to you for the holidays, right? Yeah, it's great. Let's see. Well, you have to buy the dash. Peter's right. Well, you have to buy the dash move as you level up your character. Yes, that's true. Yeah, so this game, you do get, at the end of every single stage, you get different power-ups, and you have the choice of what you purchase. So you can play through different pathing and things like that, too. Do you upgrade your weapons? Do you get more health? Do you get improved dash and speed and things like that? Yeah, these are all kind of options within the game too, which is great. There's different characters to choose from as you unlock them throughout gameplay as well. So it's fun, it's quirky, it's good. It's a good game. I like it a lot. Let's see here. Questions on Galaxy Champions TV. Let's go. This game also, due to the way that this game was designed, it is actually in a 69 ratio too. So just like Mayhem Brothers essentially too, more modern game like this too. They chose to keep it in that ratio, so small caveat to that too. Heads up on that. However, it doesn't detract from the game whatsoever, honestly, in my opinion. We keep the bezel black for a reason, so that it kind of melts in the background. You don't even notice it, right? That's why we don't put branding or anything right there in your face. We don't do bright coloring on the bezel and things like that for this exact reason. All right. Leaderboards, no. So there actually are no leaderboards for this game, at least currently, right? We'll see maybe in the future what that holds. It's not really a leaderboards kind of style of game. It's just not. You'd think it would be. It's really not the way scoring is in this game too. Galaxy Champion Shown's Moon Patrol video. Oh no. Sorry about that. I can fix that. However, you just saw the video right now. I can change that later. Let's see here. All right, we'll get to that later on. Don't you worry. It shouldn't actually show the Moon Patrol video. You might need to refresh if you are seeing a Moon Patrol video for Galaxy Champions TV. You definitely want to clear your cookies, your data, and things like that on your browser, or uninstall the app itself too and reinstall because it's not updated properly. I can tell you that. Yes, the harder difficulties do not give you many continues, 100% in this game too. Any chance for online play? That's up to the developer for this game too. They don't have online play for any variations of this game, to my knowledge, so probably not. However, it's great in solo as well too. It's funny. Everybody always asks for online, right? So we came out with let's break this down a little bit too, especially for the home arcade space, right? Let's see, about November last year, December, right? Everybody was clamoring for online multiplayer games, right? All you guys wanted online multiplayer. So we're going to bring online multiplayer, right? You bring it in, nobody uses it. I swear. Some people do use it actually too. We do have a lot of data. And of course, it is still in an alpha state. So the bigger and better it gets, of course, the more people you're going to draw to that too. However, keep that in mind with a small caveat. Every time you guys ask for something for online multiplayer, I don't know what you want. Everybody at the beginning of the year, it was, every game needs online multiplayer. Towards the end of the year now, it's like, do we really want online multiplayer for these games? It's great. These conversations happen all the time. Thank you, YouTube, for entertaining me nonstop when I'm outside of work. So it's always fun. Just bringing it up. Let's see here. So I believe actually Test99. So Test99 here is asking, would you be able to reverse controls and set buttons for WASD control and use a joystick to control the gaming? So that's how this game is actually set up. It is WASD, right? So X is left, Z is right, down is Y, and then B is up, right? So it is actually WASD, or as close as you're going to get for the buttons. So yeah, we did that on purpose because that's sort of the most natural state for people, right? And then I believe dash is C, and not change weapon or power up is A. I forget what A does. But yes, that it is actually set up as a WASD to control with one joystick and buttons instead. However, I do highly suggest if you're playing this game solo, twin stick is way better. Personal preference, but highly suggest use twin stick for this game. All right, other things. How can you do a review so fast, Brad? It just came out. Yeah, so I believe, let's see, Papa Brad's Gaming, Michael B, the Game Genie, and P-Dub's Arcade Loft will shortly have videos available for you to check out for reviews on this game, because they did have review copies. Don't at me. It was a very fast review process for this game too. We usually have a full PR launch for these games. This one just didn't make it in time, but there are a couple out there. However, for $6.99, it's a steal at that price, honestly, too. This game is going to get you more than $6.99 worth of value, I can tell you that. It's a great game. Multiplayer becomes more important as the player base increases. ST Gyro, you are absolutely true. 100% on that, too. I'm so sorry that I just hit the mic. If you heard it pop, that was me hitting the mic. It's absolutely true. Yep. And as we continue to grow, of course, we make these online features more and more robust. That's the plan. Again, we're really a software company disguised as a hardware company. Keep that in mind, guys, especially coming up. We talk a little bit about the future, right? That sort of segues into the future a little bit, right? I mean, the future, of course, is going to include what we've already sort of touched on, right? So, of course, light guns are coming with Operation Wolf, especially very soon, very, very soon for that stuff too. Again, no release date on that. It was expected to be before the holidays, so caveat, right? But it will come soon. Accessories too, especially our accessories from Glenn's Retro Show products, GRS products, Thunderstick. Those guys are working super hard as well. Not just us, but them as well too. Keep that in mind. So it takes whole teams to make these things happen, right? A little bit trickier on development for the Bluetooth. I will say that's kind of what's holding it back a little bit. But we're trying to get that to you as quick as possible. Again, we're really shooting for early Q1 for this stuff next year. So we really are trying for that. Yep. So we're still working on it over this next week and things over the holidays. So yeah, that's how it goes. Endless work for me. 4-player online as well. That was promised for, we're going to roll that out with some games at a time too, right? So it's great. So those of you who do own 2 machines can do 4-player online on the same account if you really want. However, you can do 4 players on 2 separate machines across the world, wherever you're playing at, right? So US and Canada really is what you're playing with. So if you want to do 2 players, you'll do player 1 and player 2 on one machine, and then player 3 and player 4 on the other is how that's going to work, at least out the gate currently. And of course, maybe other things down the line, right? 4 players on 4 different machines, maybe 6 players on 6 different machines, right? That of course comes with the caveat of having the right games to put on that, right? So there you go, things to sort of think about for the future that we're always thinking about, and we have other plans for different things. I can't talk too much about the future, but that's definitely stuff that's coming in the future, as well as, of course, an update to the UI, getting the store on the launcher itself too, so that you don't have to use any sort of app or store, web browser, or anything like that too. That sort of simplifies things for us too. Something that was really planned for on release, but as it turns out, it's very tricky. We sort of, again, different battles we have to fight. You all want one thing, you want this thing, you want that thing, you want this other thing over here too. We got to deal with that at the same time that we want to do our own sort of things too. Remember, keep that in mind too. Or things that you might not even think about that we think will be great. So we're always working on that kind of stuff as well. So do always, keep that in mind. Think about everything with a grain of salt. We're very busy working on a lot of features all the time over here too. It's nonstop, night and day for iiRcade. Bringing things, we're trying to, things like little things we didn't even talk about too. Keep that in mind too. Accessibility features that was added in pretty quick last year. Other things I'm trying to think of as well. We do game fixes and stuff all the time whenever we're needed for them. Things like I know you want Karate Champ in one player mode instead of 2-player. We'll see. We decided on that with the company to do 2-player instead of twin stick. However, we'll see. Maybe that changes. It takes a little bit of time for that kind of stuff too. Less on our side, more so just talking about licensing and things like that, right? So small things like that, right? So always think about that kind of stuff too. Whenever you're like, I want this feature, I want that feature. Oh, we know. And we're working on a lot of those features most of the time anyway. However, that's sort of what the future holds. And of course, with being more of a software-oriented company especially, right? You're probably looking at 2023 focus more so on software than hardware, I would say, more than anything else. Of course, that's why we have partners who are now bringing hardware to our machines instead, right? So that's kind of great for us to focus less on that kind of stuff and be able to more so use our time spent for the software features that need to be implemented or that we really want implemented on the machine, especially things like online features like friends lists, global lobby systems, other things that we're working on currently for online, as well as not just online gameplay, but, of course, the games themselves, right? Bringing you bigger and better titles and building other stuff in the background, right? So that's more what the future holds for now. Wow, I've been talking for a while. Sorry, my throat. Getting a little hoarse over here. Little horses. Anyway, so let's see. What else we got here? What's going on in the chat, too, that I've kind of been not looking at nearly as much as I should. But yeah, speaking quite frankly, it's great. We're pretty proud of how far we've come in the past 2 years, which is really cool. We're a very small team. We do grow. We grow, we shrink, we grow, we shrink. Just like any company, right? You pick your own battles. You have to allocate funds where you need to, right? So, of course, sometimes it goes into software features. Sometimes it goes more into licensing. Sometimes it goes more into hardware things. It's always a thing, right? You have to choose. It's always fun. My favorite thing all the time is when people are like, you should just hire another person to do this and take the workload, right? Well, keep in mind that then I have to pay another salary, which then in turn turns into we can't use that money for licensing that AAA title that you want, right? So do keep that in mind too. It's fun. It's always a fun thing for a business. We learn as we grow. It's great to do all this stuff too. The past 2 years for me here at the company have been great. Great and terrible at the same time, right? So I'm always busy. I'm always working, but that's fine. I'm very much a workhorse. That's just how I've always been. It's what I like doing, right? So shout out to everybody on our team in case they're watching the channel right now too. Our teams here in the US as well as overseas in Korea, as well as some of our developers over in India, which is cool because they help us out all the time doing different things, engineering for servers, engineering for the games, engineering for lots of things. Our software is done both over here as well as overseas, which is cool. Hardware is mostly done in Korea. However, we do, of course, test everything over here and do things too. And shout out to our other partners too that we're working with right now too. Glenn, if he's watching Glenn, if he's watching right now as well too, especially big shout out to him. GRS products are super big quality. That's why we partner with them, right? So shout out to those guys too. They're doing their Build-A-Cade stuff right now too, which is great. And working with us in the background. They're very busy over there. Thunderstick products and things are great. So yeah, kind of a little wrap up for me for the year as well too, right? Let's see here. Questions that I can take right now before we kind of go. It's been about an hour. It's kind of about right. So there you go. Let's see here. Sorry, there's a lot going on in this chat now that I'm looking. Just good listen to the fan base. Yeah, we do listen to you guys all the time too. Of course, most of our features last year too, especially year one, was heavily influenced by all of you. All of the community, right? So you wanted a system level track mode, we gave you a system level track mode. You wanted global leaderboards, we get global leaderboards, but of course that was always intended to. Certain game titles sometimes. Oh my gosh, other things. Scanlines. Scanlines was in big part thanks to the community being very vocal about it. They're like, we want scan lines for these games. So we gave you scan lines. We gave you, a CRT filter and things like that. So that's where that came about more so. Things that were quick and easy to implement. Accessibility features was a big one too from the community that we were asking for, especially the autofire that's in right now, as well as others too, right? Maybe you might see things like colorblind modes and things. You all might not think about that all the time. However, we think about that kind of stuff, and we have certain people who reach out to us and say like, hey, can you do this? So they can better enjoy the machine itself too. So it's easier for them to play. So that's a big one too, is accessibility features. Those are heavily brought on by, the community, right? The public, more so than us, right? Because it takes somebody to usually bring that stuff to our attention to be like, oh shoot, we think we can do this. Yeah, why not? Yeah. So that's always fun. And of course, we're always focusing on that too, even though you might see it a little bit, it seems like less this year, right? Than the previous year, because we have more rapid development during the first year than during the second year. However, the second year is still rapid development. It's just more intensive development on features that are a lot deeper level and that take a little bit more time, right? That's how it works. So even though you might not see it, we see it all the time on the back end, right? So that's kind of how that goes for the second year for us. Vigilante dropped in the show. Yeah, Vigilante as well as Galaxy Champions TV. Let's see here. Test night. Here's a good question I get all the time too. Is there a way to have the light up marquee turn off when the cab is put to sleep on the gold cabs? Potentially. We've actually thought about putting this in as well too. Again, this is sort of a minor feature that we're like, you can turn off the marquee currently on golds. If you go to the settings, advanced options on the golds, you can see there's a marquee light on off right there too. So you can actually turn it off. Having it turn off specifically when you put the machine to sleep, sure, potentially. The thing is that some people want it on when the machine is asleep as well too. So they might not want the screen showing all the time, but they do want the marquee to be on. So it's hard, right? We have to sort of think about all these different edge case scenarios and things like that too. It's not just an instant thing. Software is never instant. It takes time to development. It might seem easy. It's not always easy. But yeah, we'll think about that in the future too. Let's see here. XL Gold Cap possible. We have, you're referring to another company when you say XL anyway. That's not even us, right? So keep that in mind. We're a much different thing entirely than pretty much anything out there, honestly, too. We're kind of in our own sort of space, right? And again, even more so next year, you'll see us sort of pull away into sort of what we're doing more so, which is cool. I'm excited for that. But yes, for the gold cabs themselves too, we're a good size. Keep in mind, we played around with our initial release of the cabinets. This was all taken into account of what size of machine do we want? We are a home arcade company, right? So a home arcade consoles is what this is meant to be. Because of that, we don't want to go too big. We want these to fit nicely in people's homes, generally speaking, as a default. We don't want to make this model and that model and this model and that model all the time, right? That's not really our style. Again, we're more of a software company, right? So when it comes to the devices themselves, we've kind of found this is a nice size to fit. It's just big enough to not take up too much space, but it's big enough for like two grown adults to actually play on properly without having to hunch over entirely. Of course, there's always, bigger people, right? If you ever meet Chris Williams, he's probably got a full foot or two on me, right? Because I'm not a big guy, but he is. So for him, he actually has it up a little bit higher, I think, in his house on his thing. Stools are always good to play, but, we'd like for most people to be able to stand up, but, you pick your own battles, right? So that's how it goes. But yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what the future holds for hardware. We haven't announced any new hardware or anything like that yet. So yeah, stay tuned on that kind of stuff. Probably early on next year, we'll do a nice, it's kind of a state of iiRcade, right? Like a State of the Union kind of address, and we'll talk about a lot more stuff, probably in Q1 next year, early on yet. So keep in mind for that too. This is more of just a holiday wrap up. Yeah, no new hardware plans announced right now too. We got current hardware we got to get out there, right? We got to get the accessories out first and the light guns out there first, right? So I gotta do that. Can we get a Kadash themed gold cabinet? You don't have Kadash yet on the cabinet, right? It's a fun game though. Let's see here. Interesting question. Do you think gold cabs slowed down new releases of games at the beginning of 2020? Are weekly releases a realistic expectation? Interesting question. Yeah, so we've still kept up to a weekly release schedule this year. I think we've missed 2 or 3 weeks, right? And that was it, if that. Yeah, so we'll see. The gold cabs do not get in the way. Now, hardware never gets in the way of software for us. They two different entities entirely, if you will, too. And games are never affected specifically by software, except in the case, of course, of like light guns and accessory-based games, right? So like a spinner and trackball and stuff like that, right? So, and of course, like we're not releasing Operation Wolf, even though it will work with a joystick and buttons as well. For those of you who have standard edition cabs, we don't want to release that game without a light gun. Plus, it needs approval by Taito before we can release that game. They need to see it with a light gun as well too. We showed it to them with a light gun, but they do testing in-house themselves as well too, right? So we need approval from those licensors as well. But yeah. Cabinets never get in the way of games. I mean, I'm busy all the time. I direct the entire company. So I do deal with all of our teams from hardware, software, to business, to marketing, all that stuff too. But it never affects, they're different teams entirely. One never affects the other for the most part, right? So let's see here. If Galaxy Champions TV is showing Moon Patrol, that means your store is not loading properly. Definitely the demo is linked properly to Galaxy Champions TV, but I can take a look again after this too. But if that's the case, clear your browser data or uninstall the app and reinstall it. Sometimes it's just good to do that, honestly, too. Our app's still a little bit newer as well, too. Again, lots of things that we're doing with the store. Yeah, so trying to get it on the machine, right? Let's see here with the fatigue mat. No. Stools? I always get asked about stools. We would love to do stools, right? We talked about this in the past too. Didn't quite make it in time for this year. Will it make it next year? Maybe. I'm sitting on an iiRcade branded stool right now. If I do ever get you a stool on the store, I don't know what the price would be, honestly, too, because I guarantee you it's going to be premium. We'll see. We've tried out real leather. We've tried out faux leather. We've tried out lots of things. It's mostly printing. It's mostly packaging, honestly, is what comes down for the stools. We haven't done a good team to package it properly, where it's small enough and weighs properly without costing you a fortune in shipping, right? Because I don't want it to cost like an abysmal amount. I don't want the shipping on the thing to cost more than the thing itself, right? That'd be nuts. The world we live in 2022, right? Here we are. Let's see here. We're going to bring different skinned cams for the gold. Maybe. It's such a Zhang answer. Maybe. Let's see here. What other things can I go over in this chat? Wow, I skipped a lot of questions. Okay, hold on. Scrolling up here. Twin stick is the main mode of play for Galaxy Champions TV. Yes, it is 100% twin stick for solo mode. However, you can use buttons and joystick if you want, and that's the co-op mode is also joystick and buttons. Yes. But again, highly suggest playing that in solo mode with twin stick, at least the first time you play it, 100%. It's kind of how it was designed, how it's meant to be, right? So that's our arcade style. Let's see here. Yes, I do see games in the chat. I can see them all. I just can't talk about them. Seen and heard. Can you add more visualizations to the jukebox? Yeah, I believe jukebox is still in beta, technically speaking. It's like Google. It's the forever beta product, right? Yeah, so jukebox, it's not, I don't want to call it an afterthought, but do keep in mind that jukebox was a feature that was kind of given as a gift. So it's kind of sidebarred a lot to other projects. There are more important things right now for us. Getting light guns out to you, getting accessories out to you, getting features that were announced especially out to you first before we can delve back into things like jukebox. However, maybe at some point, yes, we can do things like this. It's on my list. If that's the real answer, it's on my list. So we'd like to, but there's no promises or nothing intendedly planned for that or announced for it currently. We'll give you. I think Prince actually brought it up the other day too. The jukebox fireplace mode. Yeah, that could be interesting. Pulsing effects. I'd like a 1980s like a synthwave kind of, right, with the DeLorean kind of, get the fake DeLorean going through with the grid and the city in the background. That's really the one that I want. But yeah, there's a lot of cool things you could do with that. Other features for jukebox too, and I know jukebox people ask all the time too for jukebox playing in the background during gameplay too is another one. Right? Yeah, we hear you. Nothing announced, but don't I know it? All right. I'll probably take 3 more questions. We'll wrap it up for the holiday wrap up. That's it. So nothing too crazy on the show besides releasing 2 games, just talking about reminiscing, talking about the future a little bit too, talking about the present. Let's see. Brady Goat's asking the real questions. Are you going full beard for the winter? I'm not. I can't grow a full beard. I can grow a thick mustache. If I really let this thing grow, more so than you guys have seen, yeah, I can grow a thick mustache goatee combo, but this is clean in here. I don't know why it's patchy. It's gross. I don't like it. That's kind of why I stay clean shaven, right? I can't even grow good sideburns. You know what? I always wanted good sideburns growing up. I was a very emo punk rock kid and stuff like that too, right? So I always wanted good sideburns. That's all I wanted was that. Can't do it though. You know, life is life. That's how it goes sometimes. That's. Thank you for asking a very important question though, Brady Goat. Now, maybe I'll bring back the mustache sometime next year, but like real mustache. You'll see. Jukebox fireplace mode. Michael, can you talk about games you can't talk about? No, I cannot talk about games that I can not talk about. I can't even phrase it right. CES, yeah, we are not attending CES this year, actually, to my furthest knowledge. We will actually have a presence at CES, though, through our partners at Harman Kardon for Sound by JBL. So if you do go to their booth, they actually have an entire hotel. I believe is it the Virgin Hotel now? I don't remember who took it over. But yes, Harman Kardon and Sound by JBL that we partner with for Gold, they do have our machine on display there too, and they will have games and everything playing for it to show off the amazing system and their amazing sound. So if you are there, go ahead and check out their display. I have to look at the location one more time, but they actually do their own event for CES, which is awesome. So it's during CES, and if you are a CES ticket holder, you can go to that during the CES showtimes. Yep. But yes, we won't be in attendance this year. Will we have our own announcements during CES? I'm not giving my secrets away. Come on. Who do you think I am? Not myself? That's for evil stash me to give away, not for normal me to give away. Let's see here. Deus has given me awesome customer support. Yeah, shout out to our customer service team. Deus has been doing an amazing job right now. We have had some complaints I've seen for customer service. Yeah, keep in mind, we're a very small operation right now. It's the holidays. There's a lot going on. We got tons of new cabinets. I mean, when you're talking about an influx of a lot of people, we get a lot to deal with as far as that kind of stuff too. A lot of times we get newer questions. So we do this time of year, we get an influx of just newer questions that things that basically a better UI and things that we're improving on will take care of that better UX, which is great. But yeah, again, if you've ever got questions, comments, concerns, contact at iiRcade.com. We'll get you to our customer service team, and we'll help you as quickly as possible. Let's see here. Okay. Did I miss a different comment up here? Hold on. It's Stash comments. Yeah, has different privileges. That's true. You would 100% know. It looks like. Goofyfoot, I really hope that this is your profile. Your profile picture is really you in real life. You know, I hope I'm not deceived. This is how I know you. This is how I see your face visually in my mind. Anyway, what's my favorite unreleased game coming to iiRcade? I can't say. That's not fair, Renzo. I can't talk about these things. Where do I want to hang out next? Oh, we'll see. Maybe we'll do a game early next year. We'll see. A different one. If we do, it's going to be hosted at an actual venue. That's what I told John. So some great barcades here in Chicago, by the way, in case anybody's ever visiting Chicago. Some great barcades here. Plus, of course, we have Galloping Ghost which has Galloping Ghost as well as the pinball parts of it too. We've got more too, I believe, than that too. Pretty close to Chicago. But yeah, we've got like the Replay arcades. We've got, there's so many. There's just so many. Let's see here. Southern Fried Gaming Expo or Midwest. Yeah, so we haven't announced any gaming expos or cons that we're going to as of yet next year. Will we be at some? Probably. We pretty much always are. What they will be, I'm not quite sure yet. Sometimes it comes down to the wire for me going to an event. We have a lot of invites already too, which is awesome. A lot of times when we go to events, we have partnerships with them. Sometimes we do giveaways and things for cabs. It's great. We like doing that kind of stuff when we can too. Big shout out to when we were in Ohio this year, especially our second year in Ohio too. They grew the venue to a much bigger expo center. Oh my gosh. I will think of the name of this con too. The Cleveland Gaming Classic. Big shout out to those guys too if they're watching. I know they're big fans of the channel. They play their machines all the time too, which is great. We have little competitions when I get to go there, but big shout out to them. They do a charity event every single year, a charity raffle, and we always do a giveaway usually. We always have for the past 2 years. Yeah, we've done a giveaway with them for a machine for they support ALS and stuff like that, which is great. 100% of the proceeds for the raffle go towards ALS research and things like that too, which is great. Like doing that kind of stuff. Let's see here. With AC, yeah, Game Brew got real hot this year. That was unexpected because normally our office is ice cold. So, our first official twin stick shooter. Not true. We do actually have Ultra Mission is twin stick as well. All right. What else I got? I got like 2 more questions now. Going over my time here. It's a good question for Bernobio02, right? Question is, any plans to have a central leaderboard display? Possibly. Things that we've talked about sort of before a little bit that we've touched on that we've been asked before as well too. It'd be great to have like a leaderboard on the website, say, that you can always check, or like in a mobile app that you can always check. But a centralized leaderboard for the machine itself too, yeah. It'd be really cool to have. Maybe in the future. This is more of the future tense kind of stuff. Nothing that's been announced as of yet, but yes, this would be a really cool feature that we would definitely like to have as well too, right? Has a nice quality faux coin door ever been discussed? It has, but I don't want to ruin the nice art that we make on the kick plates. So, it is what it is. We are a console, not necessarily an arcade machine, right? So maybe one day we'll have a faux coin door on machine. Who knows, right? So if you really want to drill through the awesome artwork that we put on the front, it's your prerogative on your machine. I don't want to ruin it. They make these things that way for a reason. Our artwork is done specifically for our machines, right? You can see our Space Invaders cab is a little bit different than the original, right? Of course. Double Dragon, an entirely different cab, which is cool. We like the art on that too. Dead Cells, of course, has never had an arcade cab in the wild before us. So that was a custom piece entirely. That's an art piece that wraps around the entire thing. I love this machine so much. Dragon's Lair, of course, does not look like the original Dragon's Lair machine. We're not in the replica space, guys, right? So we're our own thing. We like the artwork and specifically tool for our machine. Especially you'll see it around the joystick button area specifically too, right? That's very much our own. So adding a faux coin door to the front, But I hear you. One more question here. Some kind of global iiRcade ranking. For example, you get a certain number of points for being high on leaderboards. If you go down, you lose points. It's a combo of your scores on all games. Sort of. It's tricky, right? It's tricky when you do stuff like this. You can't just combine all games. It's sort of possible, but at the same time, that's sort of unfair. Because then I guess it's good for business. It's bad for development in a sense, right? Because it just forces people to buy games, right? At that point, it's sort of a pay-to-win system. I don't like that. Again, it's good for business, but I don't like doing that. So at that point, it would become pay-to-win. I don't like that. But in a sense, at least, it would be pay-to-win. You get better odds But there's other systems potentially we could do that, maybe achievements and things, of course, too, right? So again, we like to call ourselves a console, right? What's a console without achievements? So Ultra Mission is like Berserk in comparison? Yes, it is. All right, one more question for the day. We'll call it a day for the wrap-up. We'll wrap up the year. There won't be a show next week either, of course, too. Not of course, too, but there won't be a show next week. We're going to take some time off, right? Celebrate some New Year's and things going on next weekend as well, right? We've got holiday coming up right now. We've got some big snow coming here in Chicago, too. For those of you in the Chicagoland or greater Chicagoland area, stay safe out there, stay warm, because tomorrow and Friday we're supposed to get hit pretty hard. And I live right next to the lake, so I'm probably going to get even more snow. Let's see here. One more question. Oh, I like this question a lot, and I will absolutely take this question. Dave Daffet? One. Anyway, I can't read. Do leaderboards have a lifespan, i.e., will they be reset occasionally to re-inspire planning? Nothing to announce on that yet. But yes, in a sense, there are things that we're looking into that have been planned for a long time, actually, too. Stay tuned on that. Short answer is probably for sure. In different ways than you may be expecting, but which should work out pretty well, I believe. So the game developer in me says they're going to work out pretty solidly if they come to light, right? So stuff like that is not announced quite yet. However, it's more than likely in the future that you'll see improvements to the leaderboard and different sort of types of leaderboards, right? So, yep, keep an eye out for that kind of stuff too. That's a great question. I like that a lot too. This is like especially something that's like a number one for just software specifically for a system that's like, yeah, we definitely kind of want something like this on the system, right? This is the kind of stuff that we like playing around with, especially to sort of separate us, right? So, which is great. All right. And with that, is it Dave? Is it Dave? All right. Dave is collecting. Okay, there we go. Okay, now I know. It's Dave. It's now Dave. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in today to the wrap up for iiRcade for the year for 2022. Going into 2023, we're very excited to expect sort of bigger things, probably talking about in Q1 next year, which we're excited for, right? And beyond that, yeah, more games, of course, always more games. Always going to have more games in the system too. Keep that in mind. So if there's always a specific title that you're looking for, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I'm actually out of coffee, which is great. It's good timing for this too. Thanks so much again for tuning in, for supporting the company too. We wouldn't be here without all of you, of course, our community, our arcade, especially our arcade community too. And if you're just joining as like a new arcade community member too, welcome, shout outs, plenty of content for you on YouTube, I can tell you that. Good or bad, we'll see. But there's plenty of it out there too. Shout out to a lot of our channels. Of course, we had Papa Brad's Gaming, as well as, of course, he's on the iiRcadians channel. We have P-Dubs, Arcade Loft, and Michael B. the Game Genie, who did review copies for Galaxy Champions TV, which just came out today, $6.99 on the store right now. Twin stick game, as well as two-player co-op with single joystick and buttons. We did also release Vigilante, but yeah, check out those channels for reviews coming up shortly if they haven't been posted now. But big shout out to everybody else too on our list. There's too many YouTube channels to shout out. I'm so sorry, guys. I like you all. I watch you all the time too. Big shout out to all you guys too. I do watch all of you. I swear to you, when I have time, right? So I try to keep up. Yes, we share the same Michael. It's how it goes sometimes, right? For especially you. But without the community, without you guys' support too, we wouldn't be here too. So yeah, so big thank you to all of you. Happy holidays. Enjoy your time. I hope you're enjoying the fireplace, and I hope that you're actually playing the games. The games are still on sale. We still got one more week of game sales before the end of the year, so it will cycle through to the 5th week of games again, coming up on Friday, right? So do keep in mind the game sales will still be going on until December 31st, and then so it ends on December 31st at night. And then beyond that, the cabinets are still on sale too. We have a very, very limited amount of the gold editions left. I believe Space Invaders and Black Edition, Dragon's Lair and Black Edition for the golds are sold out for Gold Edition. We do have some Dead Cells and some Space Invaders left. They're very, very low in quantity. And then, let's see, whatever's still left too. I believe Retromania and Dragon's Lair are what's left for the Standard Edition units. There may be some 64 megabyte version. No, I don't think there are. We'll see. But yes, the cabinets are still on sale too until December 31st too for the holidays. So in case you want a last minute gift, it's clearly not going to make it in time for this weekend if that's what you're looking for, but it will ship out pretty quickly, and it'll probably make it there early January. So again, we're never a shipping company, right? Stay tuned for more news and things next year, of course, as well. We're very excited for next year to announce other things, and stay tuned for light guns accessories, as well as Ninja Baseball Batman and 4-player online, right? So we're still working very hard, very diligently. I can't say diligent, apparently, diligently to bring that out to you as fast as possible too. We promise we're definitely working on that stuff to get it out pretty much immediately, right? So that's still like right now on the radar. That's what you're looking up coming up next for iiRcade is light gun functionality, accessory functionality for spinners and trackballs specifically, as well as, 4-player online and some other stuff, right? So, yeah, it's fun. It's a good year. Good times. I need a shmup-themed gold cabinet. Kongzer SB is asking for a shmup-themed cabinet. Maybe stay tuned on that one, too. You have no idea how much I would like a shmup-themed cabinet because that's pretty much my main thing that I play on the cabinet usually when I'm at home, right? So, all right. Anyway, let's wrap it up. That's a wrap for the year. Closing the books on 2022 for iiRcade. That's so we're excited for more things coming. So stay tuned in 2023, and we'll see you then, right? So I will play you all out with, again, I'll play you with Galaxy Champions TV, but do remember that Vigilante is on the store as well right now. It just released today along with Galaxy Champions TV. So if you're looking for a Vigilante, it is available right now as well for $9.99 on the store. Galaxy Champions TV is going to be your twin stick game for $6.99 right now in the store as well. So have fun, pick them up if you like them, pick up the games on sale, but do remember to actually play the games, right? Don't just let them sit there. You don't just have to collect games. It's not Pokemon. You don't got to collect them all if you don't want to, right? So, I'm the worst salesman for a game, right? That's how it goes. But pick up what you like, but do remember to always have fun and game on. Thanks.